Hi guys, very warm welcome. Welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to Unlevel Ground, where we simply, sincerely and frankly speak about the word of God, share our faith and speak our hearts. My name is Esther, very welcome from me and welcome back if you've been here before. Very nice to have you here again. So today, I would love to speak about something I wanted to speak about for a while because it's just been a revelation that has blessed me so much. And the more I meditate on this, the more it expands in the understanding I have of it. So, oh my gosh, I'm just so grateful of this. And I understand how it impacts my life and my relationship with God and my walk with Him. So I would really love to share, and I feel led to share it now. So today I want to speak about a topic, and I don't even have a title for it. If I had to describe it, I think it would be to understand the power of will and willingness. So that is what I want to talk to you about. That is what the Lord spoke to me about. I hope this will bless you. Stay open for it. You never know what the Lord has for you in this. So let's get into it. There was an interesting encounter in a situation that Peter had with Jesus. And that was in the Garden of Gethsemane. It was a place where Jesus became very vulnerable due to the circumstances, due to what was before him. He was about to be crucified on the cross. He was about to go through the worst thing he could ever go through. He was about to be separated from the Lord. I am becoming emotional, and we're 2 minutes in. He was about to go through the most scariest thing any human being could go through. Like, even the separation from his Father. It just shows us, if that is not what we are scared of the most to go through, then there is maybe something wrong in your relationship with the Lord. Of course, we do not have the spirit of fear. I'm not trying to say that you should walk in the spirit of fear. Because we have the confidence through the word that nothing, absolutely nothing can separate us from the love that is in Jesus Christ our Lord. That is Romans 8:38-39. So we walk in that confidence. We walk in the confidence of the truth. We do not walk in fear. But what I'm saying is, if you ever were confronted with something like that, which we thanks to God's grace don't have to be because the Lord did it for us, then I think that would be the scariest thing for every Christian, because we know that we are nothing without God. We are nothing without His grace. We are nothing without His presence. We are nothing. And he was about to go to the scariest moment, the scariest situation, the scariest time in his life. I'm pretty sure it was more than fear that he was dealing with, that his emotions were more complex than that. Anyways, he took 3 of his closest disciples with him into the Garden of Gethsemane, a place where he decided to pray to the Lord and lay down his emotions and be honest, be vulnerable before the Lord, to share what was really on his heart. And during that time, he gave his 3 disciples, his 3 friends, he gave them a little assignment. He gave them a little task, which was to pray. And later on, I will read the verse to you and we will go through it. We'll get into it, in more depth. But it wasn't only for support. It was also prayer that they needed themselves, that they didn't realize that they needed. Jesus prayed to the Father, returned to the place where the disciples were sitting and praying, and confronted them and asked them, why are you sleeping in an hour when you should be praying? So I want to read to you that very instance. I think it's 4 verses. I'm just going to read to you after explaining to you the context now. We are going to read in Matthew 26, verse 40-43. And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, so could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, for the 2nd time, he went away and prayed, my Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done. And again, he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. Whew. Okay. Jesus confronted Peter. So he came to him and he said, so could you not watch with me 1 hour? Could you not pray with me 1 hour? I find it's interesting that he uses the word watch. And it's not even that I had like any revelation about it, but it is, I think it speaks to having a spiritual alertness while you're in prayer. While you're in prayer, there's a spiritual alertness that you have. And I find it very interesting. It was actually a great move of wisdom for Jesus recognizing that he's about to be put into a place where he will have to go through a lot of hardship, a place where we'll have to be very vulnerable, where he will be humiliated, mocked, treated really, really badly. And before that, he wanted to prepare himself, but he didn't do that in solitude. He knew the power of prayer, and he knew the power of prayer in a group. So he surrounded himself with the closest people in his disciple group, in the groups of the apostles. And he said, watch with me 1 hour. Be spiritually alert with me for an hour. Be in prayer with me for an hour. Let us unite in the spirit before the Father. I love that. Not only for me, but for you as well. So I love that he says that. And then in verse 44, he says, watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak. And that is the statement I want to concentrate on today. The spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak. Why did Jesus say that to Peter? I found it very interesting because thinking about it, I noticed that immediately you would have the understanding of the verse that Jesus is making you aware that you are weak in your flesh. Your flesh is weak. It is not that there is no understanding or revelation in that statement. But to be honest, when I read that, I said, well, I think after all this time of Peter walking with Jesus, I think he would have become aware of that. Like, he was in a state where he was supposed to pray, and his eyes, he was falling asleep the whole time through. He could not stay awake. So he was very much aware and conscious of the fact that, yes, my body is tired and it's making me sleep. My body is tired, therefore I cannot pray. So you could also say that Jesus was stating the obvious. And then I had to pull back and understand that that cannot be the case. Because, there are so many things that happen, so many healings and miracles and teachings that Jesus did at that time. And only a handful of them could be recorded. So there is a handful of things that were now put together in a book to speak to us and to give us understanding about the things of the kingdom, about the matters, principles, and the teachings and the wisdom of God. So I believe that the Lord, and as in Jesus, was very intentional with his words. He was not only intentional with the healings he did, where he was at what time, but he was very intentional with the words. And I believe that behind every word, behind every statement, there was revelation of Jesus, and there was new revelation. He wouldn't just waste his words to confirm something without releasing a revelation that we still needed to move forward, to grow in the things of God. It cannot be that all that he's trying to say with this verse is, you are willing, the spirit is willing, but you're also weak. I'm sorry, that is just what it is. And your flesh is weak, but you need to fight against that, okay? I don't think we should concentrate on the weakness of the flesh. I think we should concentrate on the willingness of the spirit. If we concentrate on the spirit being willing, then we know that the solution is in that verse. We know that the solution is in that part of the statement. So what does that tell me then? It tells me that the problem was not that his flesh was weak, but that he was lacking willingness to be able to pray. If we know that the strength does not lie in our flesh, but it lies in our spirit and it lies in the willingness, then we have to concentrate and understand what it means to be willing. And I think that is what Peter did not understand in the situation. He did not know what willingness looks like. I really think, or I believe, or what I understood from this is how to differentiate between will and willingness. Because I really do think that Peter wanted to pray, because he followed him there. In other instances in the Bible, it was shown that Peter had a will and the willingness to know God. There were other records that have shown that Peter was willing to know the Lord. He did not only have a will, but he also had willingness, because there's a difference between those two. For example, when he had a revelation of Jesus being the Messiah. So Jesus asked his disciples, who do you think I am? and they said, you are a prophet, you are this, you are that. And then he said, but who do you believe I am? And then Peter spoke up and I said, I believe you are the Messiah. I believe you are the living Son of God. How did he get that revelation? He did not get that revelation randomly, because the words of Jesus afterwards, responding to that confession of Peter, he said it. Jesus responded to that confession and said, flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. This is not something he made up in his mind. This is not something he concluded in his mind from things that he saw. How did he get it then? There was a willingness in his spirit to know the Father. There was a willingness. Now, it was not only the will, which is a choice or decision to pursue something. It was a willingness. It was the actual process, the actual pursuit of knowing God. He was actually willing. So I don't know what was going on in his heart. I don't know what was going on in his mind. But he did not concentrate on the things that were logical to other people. Other people were concentrating on this being logical, that being logical, that making more sense. How many more people maybe support this statement or this confession of who he is? No, there was a willingness to be close to God. There was a willingness to know God. And in response to that willingness, he received the revelation of the Father that Jesus was the Son of God. So willingness is really important. And that circumstance, for example, showed that there was a willingness in Peter. So that was a strength that he had. Willingness is powerful if we understand how it works and if we stay persistent in it. But now in this instance, Jesus spoke to Peter again, and then he pointed out, you are not as willing as you once were. In this case, you are letting yourself being overwhelmed by the weakness of your flesh, but the willingness of your spirit should have the upper hand. Why are you sleeping? You are not sleeping because your flesh is weak. You are sleeping because your spirit is not willing enough, because you are not willing enough. Willingness is a decision. That is the thing. Willingness is a decision. Even though he says the spirit is indeed willing, our soul as we are spirit beings, right? We have a soul, we live in a body. But the decision making happens in the soul realm. It happens in the soul realm. It happens in your mind. So in your mind, how much do you desire the things of the Lord? How willing are you to pursue the things of the Lord? That is what willingness looks like. Will is the point where he made a decision, I want to pray. I want to know the things of the Lord. So you've made a decision. You have pinpointed, that is my destination. That is where I want to get to. But how do you get there? What about the process? What about the journey? How do you move from A to B? Willingness. You move from A to B through willingness. Your will not take you from A to B. A plan will take you from A to B. Thinking about how you're going to get from A to B and staying in that, enduring, despite hardship, despite difficulties, despite warfare, you will stay persistent. You will stay persistent in it. So the spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak. What was he saying to Peter? Peter, I need you to be more willing. This is a time in which, yes, you will be opposed by your flesh, by your weaknesses, by your desires, by uncomfortability, whatever it is that is opposing you right now in this time. Your willingness has to persevere. You have to persevere in your willingness. You are letting your flesh overwhelm you, but you have to stay willing. You have to remain willing, because your willingness will give you power. Now, how do we receive that power? I think that is the part that I really, really loved, or one of the parts I really, really loved of this revelation, is that he showed me, he said, Esther, there is so much. If you actually understand the power behind your willingness, the way I will empower you will be more than you will expect, more than you will understand, because we do not have the power to do things. And this is an important distinction to make. I think there is a reason why the Lord defines himself as the one to be able. He is the one that is able. He is the one that has the ability. When he never said, Peter, your spirit is able, but the flesh is weak. No, he said your spirit is willing. So your power and your responsibility lies in the place of willingness. The ability to do what you are willing to do comes from me as God. That is why God speaks of himself in the Bible as unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that I may ever ask or think. Ephesians 3:20. He said unto him who is able. We love to concentrate on the verse that says unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think. And then we emphasize that part, we highlight that part. But what about the part that says unto him who is able? He is able. We worship a God who is able. We serve a God who is able. He has the ability. He has the power. That is why he is God. Well, that is not why he's God, but he is God as well. That is let me put it differently. That is a confirmation. Let's say it like that. That is a confirmation. I'm at peace with that, with that statement. Sometimes I need to find my words. That is a confirmation of him being the God that he calls himself to be, the God that he describes himself to be in the Bible. He is able. What about Jude that says unto him who is able to keep you from stumbling? He is able to keep you from the fall. He is able. Now, of course, that has a lot to do with our reactions and responses and our walk with God and yada, yada, yada. Again, willingness. There is a responsibility that we have to take. What decision do we make? Where do we want to go? What is your destination? And how much do you desire to get to that destination? How willing are you to endure, to persevere in this process of getting from A to B? That is our responsibility, but we serve a God who is able. So he was saying to Peter, he was revealing something really beautiful to Peter. He said, Peter, if you are willing enough, and if you persevere, even though you are feeling your flesh opposing you, the weakness overtaking you, if you are willing, all of a sudden you will be empowered. Why? Because I am the one who is able. I am the one who holds power. But sometimes I need to see that you are willing enough to get to the destination where I want you to be. Sometimes we're just not willing enough to know the things of God. Sometimes we're not willing enough to get to the place. And sometimes he will let you struggle just a little longer because he has not yet seen that you are willing enough. Sometimes, like, have you experienced that? You're in tongues, you're in prayer, and it's really, really hard. Sometimes it's really, really hard to pray. Sometimes it is really, really hard to pray. And that can be the case for multiple reasons. It could be that your mind is in the way, that your thoughts are in your way, your mind is so full. You're still thinking about the things that people said to you during the day. You are still thinking about the fights and your mind is just full. Sometimes there's just wisdom. You have to know sometimes you want to really come to this place of quietness and peace within your heart and in your mind so that you can hear from the Lord. Sometimes you just have to cast your burdens. You have to learn how to cast your burden and to cast your burdens on the Lord, to not worry. Those are the things that you become important to learn. But sometimes it's just really hard. There is nothing really in the way or nothing that we could pinpoint to say, this is in our way right now, that we cannot really connect with God. But you still can't pray. Like, there is nothing in the way, but you still can't pray. And you're praying in tongues and it just seems so hard. Have you ever been in tongues and you've been in tongues for 20 minutes and you're about to enter into this round? You're trying to push through. You're trying to enter this round where there is no effort anymore. Like, it just flows. You're in this place where you're just talking to the Lord and the words are just coming out of you. But at the beginning, it seems more like you're pressing and you're pushing and you're forcing, and it's just not working. You're just not entering into that round. Sometimes you need to get rid of the distractions. Sometimes there is something on your heart that the Lord says, you cannot come before me with this. We need to get this fixed first. And sometimes it is that he wants you to push through just a little bit more. Sometimes the Holy Spirit he will just allow you to pray for 10, 15 minutes. And he will allow it to be hard for those 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes even 20 minutes. Sometimes it might even take an hour. I've gone through that. Sometimes after an hour, all of a sudden, you just receive this. I can't even call it a rush. It's just this, again, it's just this empowerment. That's the way I could describe it. That's the way I could best describe it. It's just this empowerment that you receive, and this words start flowing out of you. And there is no effort. There is no force anymore behind it. It just works naturally. It's like something that you've always been doing. You are able to do now. Sometimes he waits to empower you because he has the ability, because he wants to see how willing you are. He wants to see how much do you desire the things of the Lord. How much do you desire the things of the Lord? How much do you want to receive the revelation of God? How much do you want to know his mind? How much do you want to receive his wisdom? How much do you want to receive understanding and knowledge of him? How much do you really want to spend time with him? Sometimes you have to ask yourself, like, the lack of your willingness can reveal to you how far or how unwilling you are to really seek for the Lord. It is such a beautiful thing. Something I said to a friend, what was it? A week or 2 weeks ago, I have no idea, something like that. And I said to her, I'm going to get to an example for that afterwards, or maybe even now. So I remember the first time I was seeking understanding from the Lord concerning a Bible verse that I had no understanding for. So it concerned the parable of the wedding banquet in Matthew chapter 22. So, and there was the verse at the end of the parable says, many are called, but few are chosen. When I tell you that verse bugged me, Jesus, I was not at peace with that verse. Like, I did not understand it. I was not at rest. And it just bugged me. And I just did not understand it. And I was seeking understanding. I was like, this doesn't really make sense. What are you trying to say with this? Is this about also, does this confirm predestination? Do some have an opportunity to even get to know you or not? What do you mean many? How much is many? Many are called, few are chosen. What do you mean if they are called, why aren't they chosen? Like, what I just just to tell you, I literally got into the faith when I had that wrestle with God. So I was new born Christian. I was like a baby, which I don't know if I still am, but I was a baby, for real, I was a baby. And I was seeking the Lord. I was like, what does this mean, God? And I just did not get it. And it did not let me go. And I don't know why it did not let me go. And it wasn't tormenting or anything. That's not what I'm saying. But it was like, I need to know. I need to understand what the Lord meant with this. I really wanted to know. And it was probably 2 weeks every single day that I definitely brought it up in prayer. I was like, but what does this mean? Or I meditated on it, as in I thought about the verse and I was trying to understand it. And at the end of the 2 weeks, I just noticed that I didn't even know the details of the parable anymore because I hadn't read it. I was just concentrating on that verse. And I just felt, this nudge of the Lord. And he was like, go read the parable again just to know what was actually going on. What was it about, So I went to read the parable and I read it again. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense and that makes sense. And then just something was highlighted to me, just a little thing. And there was this verse, a part of the verse that said, the guy that was tied up, for those who know the parable, if not, go and read it for yourself. Matthew 22, it's a good one. He was tied up because he did not wear the right clothes. And that was highlighted to me. And then I received the revelation. I received the understanding for what that meant. It was like that was the key to the door of revelation. It was not like that verse was the answer, but it was like the key, was where the door opened and he started talking to me. We started having this conversation where he started shifting my focus and my mind and started expanding my understanding. And it was so great. It was so great. It was the most exciting moment. You guys, if you have ever received a revelation, it is so sweet. And having a revelation in your mind is just completely different than having a revelation in your heart. It's like this little explosion, not even little. It is just this explosion of joy that consumes you from the inside out. It is so beautiful. Like, I've noticed when you have a revelation, your spirit responds right back to you. It's like you're feeding your spirit until your spirit has digested the word, and then it responds with joy and peace and a changed heart, a changed mind. With that word, with that revelation, you can now also renew your mind. Like, you start acting different because you really have a true and deep understanding of what this means and then how you apply it in life, how it affects you in life. So believe me, it is so sweet. Since then, I was really like searching for the things of God and revelations and getting that. I was like on a high, getting on that high. It was so good. I loved it. But what I realized through that, looking back, which I said to a friend 1.5 weeks or 2 weeks ago, was sometimes the sweetness behind a revelation lies behind the pursuit of it. Sometimes the sweetness of a revelation lies behind the search of it. That's what I really realized. And she was like, oh, you're different. But it's not even, I'm not. Actually, why isn't that the case? We should be able to, we should be willing, we should be excited to search for the things of God. And I mean, let me not present myself like, oh my gosh, I'm always seeking for the Lord. No, sometimes you just want a quick response. Lord, why aren't you answering me? I want it now. I want you to speak to me now. I want you to write it out. I want Jesus to walk into my room and tell me what is going on and then walk out again. Sometimes you're so prideful. Sometimes we are so prideful and we are so lazy. And sometimes we don't understand that there is also a weight behind the word we are seeking for. Because what the Lord taught me through that process, when I looked back a couple of months or way later, I looked back on that instance, that first time I was seeking for that revelation about the parable in Matthew 20:22, and I realized, So I had this experience multiple times after that now, and I understood for some reason that the intensity in which I searched for the revelation of the word, for an understanding of the word, did not equal the weight behind the word. And that is not a bad thing. And that does not also devalue the revelation I received. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is that I understood that the Lord allowed me to go through that process for another reason. It was not because the word was weighty. It was not because the word was weighty itself, or not weighty in a way that would have required me to search in an intense and, in a way that I would have to persevere and be intense in my search for the understanding. He let me search to see how willing I was to receive the word, to understand the mind of God. He let me search to understand that there is a willingness. Your willingness is important even for the revelations that you receive. For a simple Bible study, for a simple conversation with the Lord, how willing are you? And I'm not saying that the Lord will always make you wait. There are situations and instances in which I hadn't have to wait. So many. In which you have a conversation with the Lord, you will ask and all of a sudden you have the answer. You will hear it. It may be the still small voice. It may be the inner witness. It may be just something you're reminded of, that someone said. It may be a dream. It may be a Bible verse. Hopefully it is a Bible verse that backs it up. But, he speaks sometimes instantaneously, and sometimes it just takes a little while for different reasons. And that one reason can be that maybe he really just wants to see, how much do you really want to know this? Do you want to know this for your knowledge? Do you want to know this for your pride? Do you want to know this so you can have something good to say the next time I Bible school? Do you want to so you have something good to say the next time when you're doing a Bible study? Do you want to appear like a knowledgeable person, or do you want to know the heart and mind of God? How willing are you? How much do you desire to know the mind of God, to be in pursuit of him? He taught me a great thing there. I was really, really thankful for that lesson. And yeah, again, that sweetness is just so worth it. So going back to Matthew, to Matthew 26:40-43, Peter, watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. Like the other understanding, as in understanding that the revelation behind this was that actually the flesh is weak, and Jesus was trying to confirm the weakness of our flesh and trying to highlight that. It wouldn't make sense to me also because of this verse, as in watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. Why would his encouragement for Peter be, the spirit is indeed willing, but the flesh is weak, concentrating of the weakness of the flesh, if there was something that he had to fight against? That wouldn't even make sense to me, because Jesus speaks to us from a place of overcoming, from a place of victory. That means he speaks to us the solution to come to the place, to step into the place of victory. So why would he make you aware of your weakness without revealing to you how you would gain victory, how you could step into the place of victory to fight against whatever temptation you're going through? He knew Peter would have a temptation, and it would be a serious one that he was about to encounter. So he was speaking to him from a place of victory. Hey, Peter, you need to stay in prayer. You need to get close to the Lord, because the Lord has to reveal a place in your heart in which you are prideful, and the enemy is trying to attack you in that place in your heart. So you have to be willing to remain in prayer, to receive insight into the plans that the enemy has against you, because the Lord wants to warn you. He was coming from a place of victory, from a place of trying to give him understanding, trying to give him a warning of what Peter was about to go through. Because it was hard. It led to probably a hard season in Peter's life. He would not speak to him about all this, such an important instance, from a place of making him aware of his weakness. That is not the Lord. We conquer by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimonies, but we conquer. Let's concentrate on that part. We have victory. We have victory if we walk with Jesus. So why would he concentrate on the weakness? No, he did not concentrate on the weakness. He concentrated on the willingness. He was trying to make Peter aware your willingness is important right now. Concentrate on your willingness. Remain willing because it is important and crucial for the situation you are in right now. I'd love to read a verse from you from Isaiah 1, 19 to 20. That also speaks about willingness. So, verse 19 reads, if you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. And verse 20 says, but if you refuse and rebel, you shall be eaten by the sword, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. Okay, my voice let me down. But you could read along. What the heck? Bear with me, guys. So, as I said, if you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. So we're going to concentrate on the willingness part in this verse. As you can see in verse 19 and 20, the Lord is highlighting in verse 19 the posture that you are supposed to take. But in verse 20, he is highlighting the opposing force to that posture. So the opposing force to willingness is refusal, and the opposing force to obedience is rebellion. He says, if you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. But if you refuse, which is opposing to willingness, and rebel, which is opposing to obedience, you shall be eaten by the sword, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. And I think about willingness, what you have to understand, again, that I said before, but I just want to highlight with this verse, to refuse something, you need to make a choice. So the choice is not made in your spirit. The choice is made in your mind. The choice is made within you. Like with your conscience mind, you have to decide, where do I stand? And making the choice is the will part. You decide, where do I want to go? Who do I want to walk with? Right? That is the choice part. But then the willingness, the thing about willingness is that you don't make a choice once, but it is a continuous choice you have to make to remain in willingness. Because willingness is the process. And when I tell you, there are going to be a lot of things that will try to discourage you from staying on your path. Circumstances, if it is family or people just don't like you, that are jealous of you, or if it is the enemy, whoever it may be, there are going to be a lot of things that will want to discourage you from staying on your path. And the thing that will keep you on the path is having to continuously make the decision that I want to get to this destination. And today again, I decide that I will endure despite of hardship, that I will endure despite of pain, that I will endure and persevere despite of anything coming my way. You have to make that continuous decision again and again so that you can remain in willingness. Stay. I love the verse that says, keep your eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of, what is it? Keep your eyes, Hebrews, Jesus, what was it? Hebrews 12? I think it's Hebrews 12. I'm not sure, but I'll blend it in. Keep your eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of your faith. That was it. While you are running that race, while you are walking in that path, you have to remember and keep your eyes on where you are going. You have to keep your eyes focused on where you're going and why you are going there. Who are you meeting? Who are you following? Who are you submitting to? Who are you doing this for? I have my eyes focused on Jesus. The moment I take my eyes away from Jesus, I'm distracted by the things of this world. The enemy loves to do that. He loves to distract you. Distraction is a deception. It is deception to make you think that other things are more important than what is actually really important. The priority that has been set before you, the thing that is more important than other things, he's trying to deceive you. He's trying to make you think that that is not as important as what is going on right there, right now. You look to your left and there's something coming at you. I love how, Psalm 91, he says, 1,000 may fall to my side, 10,000 to my right hand, but they shall not come near me. I like that because I love that verse because I kind of see this picture of things falling to the side. They're falling to the side because your pathway has to stay clear. You're not turning to the left, you're not turning to the right because you have the confirmation and the confidence in the word of God that 1,000 may fall at my left side, 10,000 at my right hand, but they will not come near me. They will fall to my side. They're going to fall away. They won't harm you. They can't harm you because that is what the Lord says in his word. I love that. Have your focus on Jesus. Do not focus on the 1,000 that are coming from the left or the 10,000 that are coming from the right because you have victory. He has made the pathway straight. Keep that in mind. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Stay focused on the person that will perfect your faith. If you are going through something really hard right now, keep your eyes on Jesus. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Remember who you are walking with. Remember who you are walking towards to. Remember that we do not operate from a standpoint of, our life ends when this body is dead. When this body is dead, that's not when our life ends. Our life has started now in Jesus, but it is into eternity that we're going to live with him. You have an eternal perspective. You're not only running your race to get to A or B, destination A or B, just for the sake of now. You might not even understand the impact of the walk and the willingness that you are having right now to get to the destination. You might not know how lasting that impact will be for the generations to come, for your children or for anyone else. It is so important. There's so much power behind willingness. And you have to remember that you worship a God, you worship a Lord that is able to carry you. He will give you the ability. The moment he sees the sincerity of your faith and the sincerity of wanting to see him, it's not that you have to have the ability. That is also that's the freeing part. That is the freeing part because that is something I really did a lot, especially in the first year in my faith walk with the Lord, is that I condemned and I criticized myself so many times when I failed. I did that so often. And the Lord, through this verse as well, he set me free because he said, Esther, you do not have the ability. Did I ask you to be able? Did I ask you to be willing? I was like, oh my gosh, he said, your spirit is willing, right? That means I created you to have the ability to be willing. I didn't create you to be able. I am able. As long as you are willing, I will empower you. As long as you are willing, I will make you able. I will work through you. The Holy Spirit empowers you. Oh, I love that. It was so freeing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have to be able. I just have to be willing. Okay. But then I understand, of course, willingness does look a certain way. You don't just give up at any second or any moment. Because you know that you are walking towards God with God. Jesus, that is victory. It is, really, guys. Please. Talking to myself as well. Not only coming at you, I'm coming at myself as well. But, it's great. Whew, okay. It's already so long. Okay. I need to end this video. But there are a couple of examples that I wanted to bring from the Bible to encourage you and say, look, this is what willingness can look like. And this is what willingness can lead to if you remain in it. So, Jacob wrestling against God. Oh, I love that. Because I personally, I don't know about you, and I've mentioned this before, when I received a revelation because I think there's so many nuggets of wisdom and revelation to pull from that story. When I received a revelation of why he wrestled against God and what influence that had or what impact that had and, whatever. I understood that wrestling had a negative connotation to it, for me at least, when I went into that story, when I read the story the first times. But then afterwards, the Lord started to change my mind and make me understand that wrestling was not a bad thing. What Jacob did was not a bad thing. Jacob wanted something from the Lord. He was wrestling against God and he wanted something from him. He wanted to be blessed. And he said, I will not let you go until you bless me. The way he persevered, even though that man's hip was dislocated, my guy had his hip dislocated, but he still kept on moving. He still kept on going, even though he was in pain. I bet that was really uncomfortable. That guy was limping away. What a legend. Excuse me. You wrestled against God. You received your blessing, which he did, by the way. He persevered to the end, and then he received his blessing. Before he received his blessing, he received a new name, which was an important part. That is a part that the Lord wanted him to get to, but that's for another video. And then he gave him his blessing. And that man, that man went away limping. What a legend. Oh my gosh. Anyways, he wrestled against God. And the Lord showed me, he said, Esther, Jacob's wrestle was a sign of his willingness. And I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. Like wrestling, if you are currently in a season or in a situation, something you're wrestling with, wrestling means you are trying to understand what the Lord is doing, but you don't. You are not yet there where you are in complete agreement with whatever you are confronting or going through, but you do want to be. So you're wrestling to receive what it is that you are looking for. If it is understanding, if it is change of situation, breakthrough, whatever it is, but you are wrestling to get there. It might be hard and it doesn't have to be cute. You might be hurt. You don't have to, if you crawl out of it and you are blessed, you still receive your blessing. You will heal, don't worry. Like, I don't know, the sound may sound discouraging, but I promise it's discouraging. Sometimes it doesn't always look cute for you to wrestle and then leave, the wrestle. You might be on your knees at the end of the wrestle. It might be a hard season, but you've persevered and you have endured and you have received your blessing and you have received what you've prayed for. Believe me, you'll get on your feet so quickly and continue, and you will see the fruits of that season you've just been through. And then another person, that was such a good example that the Lord brought to my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, you're a genius. Anyways, was Daniel. I was like, Daniel, my God. I forget about a guy. A lot of people, I don't know. I just don't pay too much attention to Daniel. And I love the story of Daniel though. What we call the Daniel fast. He did that. He just fasted. He fasted for 3 weeks to receive a word from the Lord concerning something. And after those 3 weeks, Angel Gabriel appeared to him and said, I was being hindered by the prince of, was it Persia? I don't remember again. But this prince of a certain territory was hindering him, had opposed him, was hindering him from bringing that word to Daniel because it meant freedom for the nation of Israel. And I love that. He was being hindered. No, I don't love that. But, I love the story. Stay with me. He was being hindered in heavenly realms. And he said, I had to even call unto Archangel Michael to come and help me so that I could deliver this word. Now, why is that important for the situation? Because in this whole thing, if Daniel would have stopped fasting and praying, I don't know if he would have received that word. My guy was persevering and enduring. And even though he did not see anything shift, even though he did not see anything move, things were happening. Battles were being fought in the spiritual realm. And my guy did not know. But you know what he was? He was willing. My guy did not know, but he didn't need to know because he knew I just need to be willing. I need to complete what I started. And the Lord was faithful. The Lord said battles were being fought, but there will definitely be one because I am the one who is able. I am the one who is powerful. And because you are willing, you remain. He was willing to remain until he had gotten the word and he received it. And it meant freedom for a lot of people. It meant revelation for the things to come. It was just, it was so great. My gosh. This also just reminded me of the wisdom of God, This also just reminded me of something that the Lord had shared and highlighted also through other sermons, that the intensity, the length, and sometimes the difficulty behind your search reveals the weight of the message that you are about to receive. Sometimes the Lord is not allowing you to persevere because he wants to see your willingness. Sometimes there is a weighty message that is about to be revealed to you. So the way you search, your search has to reflect the weightiness of what you're about to receive. It has to be equal, like it has to be equivalent to each other. Do you understand? You kind of just sit there and say, okay, Lord, tell me about the things to come. What is it? What is going to happen at the end of days? It's not casual. Nothing is casual in the spiritual realm. When John, the seer, received revelation about the things to come, the book of Revelation that came about through what he saw, he was on the island of Patmos, and he went on this crazy journey in this vision, and he saw so many heavy and weighty things. Even the way he encountered Jesus in the beginning, before he went through everything, he said he was on the floor trembling, he could not move. There was a weightiness to what he was about to receive. That is why the encounter was weighty. He was isolated in a place on an island. Like, that wasn't a coincidence. The whole circumstance probably wasn't a coincidence to him seeing what he saw. Like, the process leading up to you receiving that revelation might be weighty, but that may be because the message you're about to receive right now is weighty as well. So don't underestimate that. Don't underestimate the fast you may be going through that is hard right now, especially now in fasting season. You might be going through a hard fast, because at the end of the fast, there is freedom. There is deliverance for your family, for yourself, for your friends, for whoever it is. There's something that the Lord wants to show you that will help you for your breakthrough, that will help you step into a new territory. Whatever it is, it might be weighty, but it is worth it. So remain in it. Okay. The other revelation I had already shared concerning Peter and the revelation he had of Jesus as the Messiah. So I want to end it here. I thank you so much, guys, for listening. Meditate on this. Meditate on the revelation that willingness is a strength and is our responsibility. There's so much power in willingness. And it is your choice. And it is your continuous choice. And it's not always an easy choice, but it's a choice the Lord will empower us in. And I love the Lord. I love the God that we serve. And it's okay to not always be the person searching for the revelation or searching for his mind. Sometimes you're just tired. Sometimes your flesh is weak. But we don't concentrate on that. It's a fact. It does influence us. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But we need to concentrate on the fact that we remain in a place where we know we desire the things of the Lord. We desire him. We desire his ways. We desire his will. And we are ready to follow up on it. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this blessed you. I hope you could take anything from this for yourself. And yeah, at the end of every single one of my videos, I love to speak this verse from Psalm 143. Which my YouTube channel is based on, and I invite you to speak it with me. I'll blend it in. It is Psalm 143 verse 10, and it says, "Teach me to do your will, for you are my God, and may your gracious spirit lead me on level ground." Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.